Well, here we are back out in the shop today. This is taking a break. We got the old pig in the shop today. It's dirty, it's winter. This thing's almost never clean. It's almost always dirty. We go through a lot of warm, cold cycles here, snow, melt cycles. And unfortunately, it's tough to keep these trucks clean. But in doing said that, got a couple small things that need to be, well, one large thing that needs to be done and one small thing. And I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but if you look at the windshield wipers, you'll see that the one on the right, if I remember correctly, is slightly lower than the one on the left. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I got to change the wipers in this thing. So I'm going to flip those back and forth. They're both the same size, but I'm going to flip one to the other side and see if it levels them out. If it doesn't, it's a GM thing, Chevy thing. Not too concerned about it. But the meat and potatoes today is this guy down here. Now, this is the fuel filter, and I can honestly say that I've slacked a bit on making sure that this is being done in a timely fashion, so it needs to be changed. I've worked on it, I've did some work on it before. You can see here as an example, this is down in, let's see if I can get you guys down in there. So you can see that I got a spacer here, which just kind of pulls it away from the block, makes it easy to work on. But you can see right here, I've also replaced that plastic one with the metal one. I've been having some weird start issues with this truck. I know the fuel pressure regulator in it is a little out of whack, which I need to do, and I've got that. But unfortunately, to get to that, it's down below a lot of stuff there, and it's down in the valley. So that's basically a project for another weekend, which I have plans coming up. But today it's basically rebuilding the filter head on this thing. Because one of the things that I've noticed is that it's probably okay right now. Nope, you can see it's soft. It's hard to really get a shot in here, but you can see it doesn't take anything to push this down. And it shouldn't be like that, which means that there's a air or a leak or a bubble or something in there. I don't know. So what I've did is I went out through a Canadian place here for us called Canadian Diesel Online, and I picked up this guy here. So it's just a Merchant Auto, and you can see the part number there. Filter head rebuild kit, 2001-2010 Duramax, part 10192, and basically it gives you all the seals. So it gives you, I think, 6 or 7. So you got 2 big ones, you got a small one, slightly smaller, tiny, and then super small, and this will replace and rebuild that whole thing. So what I'm going to do before I start doing that is I'm going to take the wipers off and get that looked at, and I'm going to start working on the filter head. Sometimes taking the wheel off is easier, but I'm not going to worry about that today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the inner fender off, and that will give me more access to the inside. And then if I feel or just decide that I need to take the tire off, then I will. So for right now, I'm going to do the wipers. Once I have that done, we'll come back and we'll start on that fuel filter head. All right, so just did the wipers, changed the arms out, and you can see now, maybe, how much more even they are. They're not, one's not sitting so much higher than the other. So hopefully that will help with the wiping and with my OCD and a few other things. So now what we're going to be doing is getting up in here, and GM fender liners are actually really easy to take out. They just use some clips, but some of the tools that I highly recommend when you're doing this is a pair of these guys here and a pair of these guys here. And basically the way it works, so you can see right here, you've got the clip that's holding this in right now. So if we just move this around to the other side here, so there's the clip, and now this clip has 2 notches on either side, and you can see that these are beveled. And basically the way these work is you just pinch this and then pull out, and then it just pulls it right out like that. And it makes it so much easier when you're having to deal with these. and you're not breaking them or fighting with them, and it just takes a few seconds, just like that. Now, the other style that GM uses, and I don't know, it doesn't look like I have any on here right now. I think I all have just the small clips. But GM will use a bigger style. And basically these guys here, they're the Christmas tree style. And this basically slides underneath. And then as it slides underneath, you can press up like this and it pulls it. And what happens is that this flat piece stays and this gets pressed and it pulls it up and moves it out real easy for you. So what I'm gonna do, we're just gonna finish pulling out these other ones here. So we just got, I think, 2 or 3. So we got the one up here. And again, you just find the spot, pulls out. One day I'll probably go on Amazon and I'll probably pick up a whole whack of replacements for this. And then we got one over here. Now, unfortunately, my inner fenders are pretty trashed. I went driving down on a road in the summertime, and my girlfriend was screaming at me. She said, "Your fender's coming off, your fender's coming off." And I was like, "My fender's coming off." And I took a look and I was about ready to slow down. And unfortunately, GM in their infinite wisdom with these fender flares, the fender flare actually pulled out because this is so rusty. The fender flare was basically, it was starting on this side and it basically pulled out, and as it pulled out it was flapping in the wind and then it just ripped off. So you can see just like how bad it is on this thing. It needs a new fender, so we'll need both front fenders for this thing as well as both inner fenders for this thing, and I plan on doing that in the summer, getting those replaced. But back to what we were working on, and that's the fuel filter head down there. And then if you, like I said, if you pull this fender liner off, you can see you've got access to it there. So this side allows you to unscrew it, and if you have a water drain or a way to get at that, you can get at that down here too. But generally for this, you can see how dirty it is down here because my fender liner is so bad. Your water and fuel sensors down here, I've taken mine out. I heard too many people saying that they have a lot of issues with false positives, so I just took mine out, and then I just do a fuel filter change every so often. And like I said, I did slack on this one a bit, so it does need to be changed. So basically what I'm going to be doing is pull the filter off, let that sit in a bucket and drain, pull the 2 fuel lines off, pull the 2 bolts off in the back, and then this just all comes out, and I'm going to take it to my bench. And once I have it off and on my bench, I will bring you guys back and then show you what's going on from there. All right, so that's where it was. It's now out. I did take off the piping here, and I did take off the intake. The clamps for this upper line that was feeding across here was just too tight to fight with that, so I took it off and filled the filter head. Pretty simple little thing, just a little suction pump. When you push on this, it pulls the fuel up and then it gets it out and push here, comes in here, comes out here. Well marked. Yeah, you can see, like, I don't know how well clear it, but you can see an arrow there. There's an arrow there. This here is a stock part. Basically this is a fuel heater. So gets below a certain temperature, this will kick on so that when the fuel is, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it's either at a certain temperature that kicks on to either help the fuel in the filter that's already there to degel, or it helps when the fuel is coming in to make sure that it's not gelled. But either way, this is a stock filter or a stock heater for the filter head on this truck. I don't know if it's like a climate thing or a package thing, but this one does have it. Basic disassembly, it's pretty straightforward. You can see here there's that metal screw plug. It's usually plastic, but you can pick up an aftermarket one from Merchant Auto. I do have, here's the one for the bottom to get rid of the water and fuel sensor. Another thing, when you get your fuel filters, take a close look at them. So when I ordered these from Rock Auto, I got two, and I couldn't really figure out why. But if you look right here, you can see this lip is cracked. Now, I don't know if it was cracked. I don't know if this thing was cracked before shipping or after shipping, but this one was broken and this one's fine. So luckily I had two, and I was able to use the other one to put the new O-ring on and then install that. So the three parts that I've once ordered for this, is this guy here, just a little spacer. I think it's like 1/4 of an inch maybe, if that. So you get this spacer, you get that plug, and then you get this plug. And with all three of these, it makes doing stuff over there in the truck a whole lot easier, because this little guy moves it just away, just moves the whole filter away from the engine just that much. But it makes it a whole lot easier to get your hands around that filter and not banging on the engine block. This guy here is good because the stock one is plastic and they strip out and fail. And they will fail at an unexpected time. So you can get this metal one, and it replaces that, and also will help create a better seal and no more stripping. And this guy here is basically the water and fuel sensor, which is under the hood there. Basically, as this gets water in it, it basically says, hey, you need to pull that out and drain it. But the problem is those sensors go bad all the time and can say there's water in there and there's not. So I got rid of it, and I changed these out probably twice a year. If I forget, it'll be once a year, but I really try to do twice a year, if not more. These things are dirt cheap. They're like 30 bucks. So it's a super cheap maintenance item for these trucks compared to a lot of other things. My truck right now has a transmission leak on the lines, and to give you some perspective, because it's an Allison automatic transmission, it can only take certain types of fluid. And the only one that I could find locally was a Shell Spyrex S6. It was $90 for, I think, 4 liters or something. It was insane. Anyways, this fuel filter head, we're going to rebuild it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything together, put it on a tripod, and then show you how this comes apart. It's just these torque screws there, and then the two on the bottom, and this thing basically comes all apart, and then it's just a matter of seals and putting it back together. So I'll get the stuff ready, and I will put you on a tripod and then bring you back. All right, so you're looking at just a little T20 here. So what we're going to do is, see, where do we start? We're going to start on the bottom. So we're going to take this apart here. So just take out these two screws. Don't need to be torqued or anything spectacular. They're just tiny little torque screws. You'll notice on here, there's this black wire. That black wire grounds out to one of these screws. There's that wire that you can see a little better. Just pops that off. Set that aside. And then you can do the rest. Now, this is a bit under pressure because there's a spring inside. So when you're doing this, just be aware. you can see I took that last one out, and you can see there's your cup, your holder, spring, and then that comes off. So I don't know why, maybe it's just because it's dirty, but basically I was doing this right, but I just think because of age, it's just stuck. Basically, where this plugs in, you should just be able to push. Yep, there, see? I knew I was doing it right the first time. And then it comes out. And you got another spring, you got another seal, and you got this ball. You gotta make sure that that ball goes back in the right way. Set that aside. And there's our seal here. And there's your head basically tore down. Now, sometimes you can rebuild these, and even after rebuild them, they unfortunately still don't seal or still have issues, and then you still basically end up having to replace this entire head. I'm hoping today that I don't have to go that far, because if I do, that'll be very upsetting. But at least this is a first step in getting this thing to run better. Like I said earlier, I know the fuel pressure regulator has to be done, but I figured if I'm doing the oil or the fuel filter, then we'll just take care of this and get this thing done while I'm out at it. All right. So here's our little goodie bag. Use my little rubber tray over here. One seal. Oh, there should be 6 in here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll start with the easy ones. So we'll start with these 2 here. Now, these are directional. So you do want to make sure that when you put these on, that you're putting them in the right way. And basically for these 2 here, what makes these different is that the lip goes opposite. So this one here, so on this top one, the lip is up here, and on the bottom one, and it's down here. So what we'll do when I show you when I take these out, so you can see how this seal is flat on one side and it's open on the bottom. So when you put it on, I'll make sure that seats in there nice. So when you put that on, that lip is now down here and the flat spot's up here. And basically what that does is it helps create the seal so that when this thing is going up and down in the bore, it's causing a suction. And again, you want to make sure it goes in nice. It's not rolled, it's seated nice. Just give it a little spin to make sure it's seated good. If you look, I don't know if you'll be able to tell on camera, but if you look really close, you can see that this basically V's down, and then it's like this valley in there. It's really hard to see, but it's like a V this way, a V this way, and that's what creates that good seal. Clean this guy off, and then this little tiny one here just goes over top of this, like so. Okay, so then what we have is this little O-ring, which goes over top of this. So that just slides on down there. So There's that O-ring. So that part is done. And we got this black one. This black one just fits over top of this. The old one was orange, the new one is black. I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but we'll see what happens. Just sits on there like that. And that's basically it. And now everything's just the reverse. You are left with one orange, little orange one. That guy there. That's just for the plug on the top for the breather valve or the breather plug. So that's basically it. You got one there. You've got one there. Then you've got, sorry. Okay, you got one here. It goes on here. You got one that goes on there. You've got two on this and one on there. And that's it. And basically, putting this thing back together is exactly the same as taking it apart. You just do exactly the reverse of how you did it. The only thing you want to make sure you're very, very careful of are these two parts, is this spring and this check valve. And the spring just fits down inside there like this. And the check valve just sits on top. And it doesn't do anything other than that. Okay, so just put it back together. Spring. Little check ball. And then heater. What you want to do is just take a little bit of diesel fuel and just put it on the seals so they're not dry going in. Just lubricate them a bit. Same with this one here. You don't want them to fold over or have issues. And then you put the two silver screws back in. Easy to tell because they are going to be the cleanest because they are under the fuel all the time. Just have to be snug, don't have to be tight. All right. So there's that unit again. Check valve is in. Those two screws. Like I said, I had to put one down at separate times because it is under pressure. Check valve is good. So you can see we got that O-ring on there. So the bottom side is done. Now it's all the top. There's that plastic piece with the new seals, this guy. And this one just, again, just goes on top. Like so. You can see it fits over top of these little studs. Not going nowhere. Just add a little bit of fluid and some oil and diesel, whatever you got, just to lubricate this to make them move. Put your spring in, put your cup on, put your retainer back on, stick your tongue out, hold it in just the right way. Once you sort of start getting some of these down, because the spring is on here, it is under tension, and so you can see how much of a gap is in here because of that. But we have to put that one on last because you put our heater plug back on. And then once you have that on, then you can go ahead and you put your ground on that. And then it just screws down like the rest, and don't forget to put it on the top, not on the underneath or below the plastic. It needs to ground out. So all you're doing here is just going to go around, and since she's down a little bit at a time, just keep it from breaking or twisting or anything. Don't forget, this is just cheap hot metal in there. And it's easy to strip these out, so you want to do this a little bit at a time. And again, they don't have to be Herculean down, they're just snug. That one feels like it wants to strip, so gotta be careful of that one. I don't like how it's not tightening up, so I don't want to go any further with that one. So that's basically it for rebuilding this thing. So I'm going to put it back on the truck, get it bolted up, and then we're going to get it started. And it's going to, of course, it's going to have to get pumped up and primed up, and then when we try and start, it's going to try and cough and sputter and go like a gross pig because it's got no fuel in there. And with no fuel in there, then it's going to be a little bit tough to start. So I'm gonna put it back on the truck and get ready to start it, and then we'll show you what's from there. All right, so I got a new fuel filter on. I got the whole thing rebuilt. The one screw that I was doing in kind of made me nervous. It felt like it was kind of going in and wasn't going to be too happy. So I basically quit. If I ever have to take this apart again, I'm probably just going to order a new head and hope for the best. I now have it primed, so it's good to go. Basically crack the bleed valve, get the fluid coming up. Once it's up, tighten this in, and then pump on this until it's firm again, and then go ahead and start the truck. So this is good. So I'm going to start the truck now. It's probably going to start a little funny, but once it's going, then we're going to check and make sure there's no leaks. Well, there's no leaks, and you can see that because of the way I primed it and got it going, that there's no issues. I still don't quite know why that this isn't firm. It is now, but when it's running, it's not. I don't know if that's normal. If it is, great. If it's not, well, I don't know, but it's firm now. So I'll keep an eye on that. But basically that's it. So if you need to replace the fuel filter or do any work on this, it's that fast, it's that quick. I think the kit was all of like 20 bucks shipped. So, I mean, it's not an expensive kit to fix. Basically now I just gotta put the fender cover back on and do that. And this part is done. And really either doing the filter or doing that rebuild kit, neither of them are difficult to do. Half hour, an hour, depending on your mechanical skill. Just gotta be aware it's soft pot metal. It's easy to strip out those screws, but you know, just go easy and go gentle and you shouldn't have any problems with it. So yeah, just figured to show you guys a quick little one on this one and what I accomplished today. There are gonna be more on the truck. Transmission cooler lines are leaking, so I will have to fix those. That's gonna be a really unfun job. Fuel pressure regulator is having issues. That's going to be another unfun job. But either way, it's going to have to be done. You know, this truck has got almost 460,000 kilometers on it. So, I mean, if I have to start doing these small things to it at this point, well, I mean, it's no big deal. And I mean, labor is cheap for me. If I had put it in a shop, it wouldn't be so cheap and it would be a lot more expensive. But other than that, yeah. So that's rebuilding the fuel filter head. And I will leave you guys here, and I will see you guys in the next one. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you later.